What's up? Tim and Matt here, doing a little divisional round playoff talk for you. Recap the wild card as well as talk a little bit about this week. Some coaching changes announced. Hugh Jackson just announced as the Browns candidate, which means the Browns are in a more appealing position than the 49ers or the Giants, the two other teams he was talking to.
Also means the Bengals lost their best coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bengals lost their best coach on that sideline, so
it's third
tough.
coach.
They got to live with another couple of years of Marv. I thought after that loss that Cincinnati was going to come right away and extend Marv 4 years.
I completely did it.
Totally losing the sideline yet again, losing another playoff game at home you shouldn't have lost.
Yep.
The totally inferior team with a quarterback that doesn't have a shoulder. And then all of a sudden, Marv, I thought it was natural. Marv was just going to get extended another 4 years. But, hey, he'll probably stick around another 13.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about that game first. Really, I mean, that was definitely the craziest game of the weekend. You saw, I said after the Shazier hit when Burfict was on the field screaming, I was like, dude, this guy's going to do something bad. Like, he's going to – and, he made the pick and he had the sack of Roethlisberger on the next play. You can have those guys on your team and the guy, they don't behave, basically. But, dude, he's got a history of that. Pac-Man has a history of that. Adam has a history of that. Marvin Lewis, if you're going to have those guys in your team, you got to control it or you got to deal with what they're going to do.
Well, that's my issue with the people who are saying that it's absolutely crazy to blame Marvin Lewis for two guys getting out of control. What you have in those two. You said it right there. You know what you have in Vontaze Burfict. I mean, that's one of the dirtiest players in the NFL. You don't need a sugarcoat. I mean, he's one of the dirtiest players in the NFL.
Yeah,
Plus the fact that he had a few plays where he was a little bit out of control in the first place, even beforehand. So, not to say that Marv should have seen it coming. You can't see that coming. But you have to have your players under control. You have to know in that situation, there's a million different instances where good coaching would have come in handy in that case. I mean, Jeremy Hill fumbling the football. They tell you before the play, the one thing you can do, you can pick up -2 yards, you can pick up 2 yards, whatever. Don't fumble.
Don't fumble.
Fumbles.
Don't fumble.
Okay? Don't want to blame that on coaching, but a lot of times – then, obviously, Burfict gets out of control, makes a ridiculous hit, undeniably dirty. You can't deny that, and that's absurd if you're even trying to. Undeniably dirty hit. And, again, tough to blame on Marv. You don't want to, but in the end of the day, we're stuck facing the same result. 0-7 in the playoffs, I want to say now.
Yeah, I think they've lost 5 straight, and he's 0-7.
With arguably, overall talent-wise, that's one of the most talented teams in football for the past 3 years.
They were 10-0.
They were 10-0, and they're really they were overall a really, really good team. Overall, a really, really good team.
All right, let's go next. We'll keep buzzing through. Redskins-Packers, that was kind of a Doug blog game. The first game, the Kansas City game, Houston didn't belong in the playoffs. That's one thing I got a bone to pick. Everybody talked about the NFC East all year and how terrible it was. Dude, the AFC South was so much worse.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Much worse.
Not even close. I mean, when you look at it,
I think NFC against any AFC South
I'm not
team,
even all well.
I don't think there's an AFC South versus NFC East game that you could pick where the AFC South would be favored.
Oh, no, and people are saying they'd have a better reputation if Luck was healthy. Well, Luck was 2-5 this year. I mean, you can blame it on health issues, whatever, that's fine. But I mean, in the end of the day, he was still 2-5. That team's abysmal. They were terrible in their drafting. They keep Gregson around though, which is hysterical. That's awesome. Might just hang a ban for going 8-8 too. But
Gregson, that's just bad. I think keeping Pagano is one thing.
Fine, totally fine, right? He kept the shit.
Gregson is where you're like, dude, why are you doing that?
The thing is, Pagano, he kept them going. I'll give him credit. I don't think they should have extended him 4 years. Maybe if you extend him a year, that's fine. But for Ryan Gregson, who came out, didn't draft anybody of value, didn't draft anybody to stop.
They drafted a carbon copy of their number 1 wide receiver. Like the Philip Dorsett,
Right.
that's the worst draft. That was the worst pick in the draft, regardless of how good he ends up being or whatever. That was the worst pick in the NFL draft.
Horrible pick. So I don't know. I think the entire draft for them was abysmal. They didn't even draft guys in later rounds that could eventually come up to be something. Absolutely no hope for Grigson, but that's fine. No hope for the Colts. That being said, you're right. Houston didn't belong in the playoffs, and I felt bad picking them. I picked them to win. I picked them to win because I thought Brian Hoyer was going to be able to not absolutely suck balls.
5 turnovers.
He sucked ass. That was, I mean, we've seen some terrible You in particular have been victim as a fan to some of the worst quarterbacking I've seen this year. I mean, some of the games Matt Castle played, some of the games Brandon Weeden played, and Brandon Weeden wasn't even as bad as Matt Castle.
Weeden was better than Castle.
He made Matt Castle look like an All-Pro at times. Matt Castle made him look like an All-Pro at times.
Yeah,
Brandon Weeden, Matt Castle played some of the worst games I've seen this year. Hoyer, even at the beginning of the year, was dreadful.
Hoyer. That was the worst performance by a quarterback. Did you even see the thing where DeAndre Hopkins is walking off the field and he goes, "Get this mother effer out of the game"? It's very funny.
Well,
he's yelling. But dude, like, what were you gonna go to Weeden? That's what I'm saying. Like, that shows like the value in it all. That Hoyer was bad, but Bill O'Brien thought Hoyer gave them the best chance to win.
Well, if you really look at it, who else do they have?
Yeah, Weeden. That's what I'm saying. Like, they just don't have a quarterback, and they made the playoffs. But I don't know. That's a team that I think Carson Wentz could end up there. Connor Cook. I don't think Hackenberg. Everybody wants to do the Hackenberg Bill O'Brien thing, but honestly, Hackenberg.
That's never going to work. They are going to draft a quarterback, though. The only thing is, I just want to quickly address. I understand what you're saying with Weeden, but at the same time, are you going to go with Brandon Weeden, who hasn't proven anything, or are you going to go with the guy that threw 19 touchdowns and only 7 picks? Can you believe it? He threw more than he threw 7 picks all season. He threw 4 in one game.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That's like the state of the NFL. That Hoyer was their best chance to win in that game, even after the 4 picks. He was still their best chance.
Yeah.
With that, I mean, dude, I just throw the ball to 10 all day.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The guy was open all day too, but Hoyer was kind of missing him a lot of times.
Yeah.
Shocker. Yeah. We can move on to that one if you want and go to Green Bay, Washington, which was another dud. I mean, like, we can just quickly touch on that. I only have one thing to say there, and I was just pretty surprised that down the stretch, Redskins receivers weren't getting open as much as they had at the beginning of the game. I mean, if you saw at the beginning of the game, Deshaun Jackson was gaining some separation, even though Kirk missed him a couple times. Then Deshaun made a huge mistake. Was lighting everybody up. Couldn't do anything once they bracketed him in the second half. It was just overall. I'm gonna give credit. I'm not gonna take anything away from the Redskins because they went 9-7 this year, and that's pretty darn good.
They didn't beat a winning team.
What's up?
They didn't beat a team with a winning record or a playoff.
Regardless, you're the Redskins. You're not even expected to do anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Jay Gruden did a hell of a job about. And lastly, credit to the Packers. Credit to Aaron Rodgers. As much as I'm going to joke about, Bill Burke tweeted at me, "Is he your new Manning?" He definitely is my new Manning. He sucks,
dude. He was bad. He was really, really bad in the first half.
He was awful at the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the first half, the whole year in general, I think they're going to get smoked by Arizona again.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, he threw a pick, fumbled it 3 times. He's going to have a rough go against Arizona, even without Tyrann Mathieu, because Tyrann Mathieu didn't play last time they played.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
they're going to have a rough go. But, yeah, I don't know if you have anything on that.
It seemed like I thought the Redskins were going to run away with it right before that. When after the safety and then they were moving the ball, I was like, wow, this could be a beatdown, especially with how bad Rodgers looked. Deshaun Jackson just doing Deshaun Jackson things.
Yeah,
pretty funny for me. I can't really stand him, to be honest with you. But I mean, good for the Redskins. Made the playoffs. They're going to sign Kirk Cousins to a $100 million deal. I like that. I don't know. I mean, that Jordan Reed is a stud. That's the best player on the best player on their football team.
And it's not even close. Like, he's ridiculous. He's a really good player.
Yeah.
He's the best one-on-one route runner. Jesus Christ, I've seen in a long time.
Yeah,
He's really
he's great. So yeah, we don't have much for that game. We don't have a lot of viewership from that. But let's move on. We talked Kansas City. We talked Seattle, Minnesota. Adrian Peterson fumbles a game away. That hurts Blair Walsh too, man. Just I don't know. And that was a weird game because of the weather and because the way the coaches were coaching and blah blah blah. But at some point, you've got to be like, I know it's cold. I know everything. But 10 points, if people are expecting Seattle to beat Carolina, they scored 10 points. And they scored 10 points because they had a fumble and like a ridiculously lucky play, which was a great play. Russell Wilson balling right now. It just wasn't, I don't know. Seattle, I just don't think has it like they had it the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have a chance against Carolina still, no question. I think if you look at their recent trends in the playoffs, they went to the Super Bowl against us. They had a horrible game and played terribly. Or that could have been the year that they went and won the Super Bowl. Played terribly, but they still won.
Yeah.
He played terribly in an NFC. Yeah, it was that year because last year he played great against Carolina and then played awful against Green Bay.
Yeah.
So every year he seems to be a little bit streaky in the playoffs, but they find a way to win. In that game, you made a mention of the weather being a little bit off. I thought that was interesting because you look at the field goal. I wonder. I played football, but I never really understood kicking in general. What kind of effect does it have on a kicker? Because like Hauschka had a 46.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts to kick the ball. Yeah,
because Hauschka could kick a 46-yarder or something like that, and then they said no.
They went for 4th and 16 or something like that.
Huh?
That's just Pete Carroll, dude. That's just like bonehead move. Like, why not try it? You know what I mean?
Right, but I mean, like, you have to wonder, like, were the kickers really that affected by it? I mean,
yeah,
because then it makes Blair Walsh look somehow a little bit better. Not that he's going to look good in any way, but well, the same time he put Adrian Peterson. He was terrible. I think he had like 21, 22 carries for like 38 yards. I mean, he was awful in this game. How many times is this guy going to drag his team to the postseason and then just shit all over himself in the final game? I mean, like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
He fumbled in now, 3 of 5 playoff games? Like, that's that's like Stephen Ridley shit. Like, that's insane. So, I mean, he might be the best running back of this generation, hands down. Like, no question about it. When he's on, it's a clinic to watch. But in the end of the day, he's not getting it done. He's fumbling in the biggest games, and it's a proven track record with consistency.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, turnovers are how you lose playoff games, and failed turnovers are how you lose. There was a play in I think it was a Bengals game, and the guy just dropped like a walk-in pick six, and it's like that's how you lose games. Like that, you have to make those in the playoffs. That's the difference between winning and losing. We'll move on to this week. I know a lot of people want to hear us talk a little Patriots. We'll go through that. I'll back it up. Of the 4 games, if the home team were to lose, which would surprise you the least? Mine's Carolina. I can see Carolina losing very easily.
So, surprised me the least. It all is dependent upon Ben Roethlisberger's shoulder. See, there's so much uncertainty in these playoffs because if the Patriots lose, right? The Patriots lose, that would be a shocker. But Kansas City's really hot right now.
Yeah. Okay. Kansas City. If Kansas City beats the Patriots, they're going to go to the Super Bowl.
Right. If
they go like last year,
one of those Raven-esque runs where they just all of a sudden they have this quarterback who really like can't do shit up until the playoffs, and he's all a miracle worker.
Yeah.
Okay. And wouldn't call Alex Smith's performance. I wouldn't call him a miracle worker in any way against Houston, but 17 for 22, something like that, and it's undeniably pretty good.
It's a key stat. He only threw the ball 22 times.
Yeah, well, pretty efficient, but not going to be able to do that against the Patriots. I think they win that game. But, like I said, Kansas City's hot, so I'll give him credit for that. For me, it's still dependent on Ben Roethlisberger's arm. I'm going to guess that he's going to be okay, and I'm going to say that would be the least surprising to me. Even though in the AFC Championship, because that defense is downright ridiculous. I'd still say Pittsburgh deserves the benefit of the doubt in this situation because there's so many competitive games. You just got to Pittsburgh, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you sticking with my theology here that the winner of Kansas City, New England, that's AFC champion? I don't think it's like last year. Last year, that Baltimore game, whoever won that game was the team that was going to the Super Bowl.
Well, I'm not willing to say that necessarily until I see the Patriots offense come out in full force again. I actually watched a really, really good series. I think it was like Brian Baldwin talked about this on NFL Network. He usually does a good job breaking down film. And if you notice what the Patriots are able to do to when they bring Julian Edelman back into this offense, like it actually transforms the offense. Like not a lot of players really transform and have the impact that he has. He might not be the best player on that offense, but he's without question the most impactful player. And you saw once Brady lost him. Getting him back, if he's at full health, there's no question about it. I think the Patriots actually, if he's at full health, they probably go on and win the Super Bowl, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
Right?
If they're healthy, they don't lose. So, and they didn't lose when they were healthy. So
only issue is if he's not at full health and he's not able to one-on-one beat Peters like he should this week, he should be able to beat Peters.
Yeah, I read a big article about how that matchup is a nightmare for Peters.
It is a nightmare for Peters because he can't keep up with his quickness at full health. If he can, it might be trouble, and Patriots are going to cakewalk to the Super Bowl. If he's not at full health, though, honest to God, it sounds like a lazy type of argument, but it's really not. He's that impactful. And,
and that injury too. I think it's been 8 weeks. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it's been since the Giants.
That's the same. Dez came back in 6 and wasn't himself till like 3 or 4 games, and even then he had some other issues going on. And I've been saying all along, I think he's a little freakier athletically than Edelman. Edelman might be a better athlete. I don't know about that, but Dez is just a freak of nature. So,
well, my theory is that Edelman's been like game ready play for a long time now.
Yeah, whatever's wrong with him. The thing about Edelman too that differs him from Dez or differs him from Julio Jones, whatever. If he's hurting, the other guys play too, but Edelman, unless it's broken again, he's going to go 100%. You know what I mean?
No question.
So he'll tough it out. He'll take some painkillers. He'll be fine.
One other thing to look real quickly. Last thing I'll say. Sorry. If you notice, they haven't deployed Gronkowski in the way that they normally do when they're really going at teams. So that's running those crossing routes, and that means running him up the seams and like letting him fly. They're going to let him do that against KC. No question about it. So
that's going to be a good matchup. That Eric Berry and
absolutely.
So let's go right down the line here. We'll go game by game. Just your picks and a quick reason why. We don't have a lot of time, but just a quick. So start with Denver, Pittsburgh, and we'll do it with Ben and without Ben.
Yeah. So you're saying we'll do with Ben healthy, without Ben healthy?
Yeah.
Okay, without Ben healthy, I mean, if he's not healthy, Denver's going to win that game, regardless of Peyton Manning. But that being said, even if he's moderately healthy, Antonio Brown's going to play. They have the weapons to win that game. Defensively, they looked okay against Cincinnati, given it was A.J. McCarron. Peyton Manning's still an unknown right now. Totally unknown, and the last we saw of him wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. So, you could say the 5 for 9 in the last game was okay, but I'm not making much of that.
I think with or without. What do you got? What's your pick? I'm sorry.
Sorry, my bad. I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh in this one. But that being said, Denver's still very dangerous.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Denver, regardless of Roethlisberger plays. I feel like Peyton Manning doesn't have to be like when the Broncos beat the Patriots. Osweiler wasn't great. He wasn't great. Osweiler wasn't great for most, but they were winning games because of that defense. So if they can protect the ball, I think Peyton Manning can get a win. I think we could get a pretty cool showdown next week in Denver. Let's go. All right, we'll go Patriots. I want to say I think the Chiefs can win. I just don't. I just feel like Brady in the playoffs. Brady throwing that video. Gronk hasn't. They haven't unleashed Gronk. Like you were saying, Edelman coming back. Home game. I just think it's just too much. I think it's in them. It would be one of the better upsets in the last couple of years that the Chiefs came in and won. I just don't. I think New England's got it.
They're hot. If Justin Houston and Tom Bahali were fully healthy, I'd say yeah. If Peters was in the league a few more years and learn how to deal with those quick, shifty guys better, I'd say he'd lock down Edelman and really they'd have a hard time. But I don't think they're going to have that hard a time. Credit to Cincinnati for doing well, but you know what? In the end of the day, and it sounds ridiculous. I sound like a homer here. I don't really give a shit. One guy's Tom Brady and one guy's Alex Smith.
Yeah,
Bottom
absolutely. No, I think that's an absolutely fair argument. If you look at the quarterbacks that are still alive, especially in the AFC, there's one doesn't belong, or maybe he belongs and everybody else doesn't belong for wording.
Yep.
All right, we'll go across the border there. We got Arizona hosting the Green Bay Packers. I think Arizona is going to blow this team out.
Yeah, I think you just said it right there. It won't even be close. This isn't even worth discussing. The last time they played them, they steamrolled them. No way.
The Packers offense has looked good in 2 games since Mike McCarthy took over, and they were against the Cowboys and the Redskins, the NFC East, 2 NFC East teams.
The Cowboys, they scored 7 of those 28 points in garbage time.
Yeah, no, the last 2 touchdowns were with like 5 minutes left.
Yep.
So and Rodgers is Rodgers, but it's indoors, and but I just don't. I don't know. They just look bad. Even though they won, dude, he just looked bad for most of that game until he turned it on. At halftime, he turned it on.
He came into his own, and I'll give him credit for that. But, yeah, he has not been him. I mean, look, 92 quarterback rating, it's pretty good for almost anybody else. For Aaron Rodgers, is not good. Second half of the year, he completed under 60% of his passes in the majority of the games. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, Sam Bradford was 94, and Brandon Weeden was 99.8 quarterback rating this season. Just to put that in perspective for everybody. All right, Carolina, Seattle.
Yeah. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, but earlier I said I think people are giving Seattle too much credit. I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina lost, and I feel like Carolina has the makings of a team that could poop themselves the first game of the playoffs. But they got some swagger, man. They have what the Seahawks had a couple of years ago, where it's just like, oh, we're the best. Come beat us. Kuechly's playing his brain out. Kuechly's great. If Lynch comes back, that helps him out a little bit. But still, Russell Wilson was balling all year, and then he looked kind of flat last week. I get it was cold. I get this was that. But I don't know. I feel like the Panthers just have some voodoo going on, and that could help them out.
Yeah, the Panthers had what the Seahawks had going on last year, except one little difference. The Seahawks had a great, and I mean great, defense. Carolina has a very good defense. And the discrepancy, you can clarify that in saying that Carolina's allowed, 30 year. Seattle never did that last year. But here's the other difference. Cam Newton is playing at an elite level this season. Mm-hmm. Russell Wilson's only played at an elite level this season, okay, and that's at the very end. I'm gonna give the nod to Cam. I'm gonna give the nod to Cam and the Panthers.
Yeah, I think what you see in that game is you're gonna hear the announcers talking a lot. I don't think that the Seattle is gonna be able to get guys open. I just don't. Doug Baldwin's good. I think Norman will wrap him up. They'll jaw a game. He'll get him off his game, not having that tight end. But I think it's going to be the tight end kind of stuff that if anything works, that's what works. But, dude, that Carolina defense, when they're clicking. And the offense is just, they get a couple plays on you, and they, bam, 21-0, 21.
The offense is like a machine. It's like clockwork for Cam sometimes. But,
All right, we're going to wrap it up. Who's one player this weekend that you got to watch? You think who's your breakout player this week?
All right. Breakout player this week. It's hard to call him a team, but I think Martavis Bryant is going to have another huge game this week. If you look at what they're going to do, right? So I think Talib is more than likely going to take him like he did in the first game for the majority of the snaps, I believe, because he can match his physicality, whereas Harris can better match Brown's speed. Bryant's going to have a huge game because I don't know how – if Antonio Brown's at 100%, Bryant's going to have a huge game, and I think he's going to be the most impactful player this week.
I want to say Peyton Manning just to piss all you guys off, but I'll stay away. I'm going to say Larry Fitzgerald has 3 touchdowns this week.
Great player. I really want to see him emerge.
I think Larry Fitzgerald, David Johnson, I just think that Carolina offense is going to destroy Green Bay.
And if Larry Fitzgerald wins the Super Bowl, by the way, I just want to quickly bring this up. We'll have to evaluate his place in history because I think he's been overshadowed by the stigma of that team being
hasn't had a quarterback until last year. and boring.
Absolutely.
But he had all those years with the garbage. Yeah, I know. He's a good dude, too. So, if all goes – that's kind of who I'm pulling for in the playoffs now. I was rooting for Cincinnati a little bit, but obviously that didn't work out. So,
Yeah.
Cardinals fans, beware. I'm rooting for your team. So, the kibosh is on. I might have to root for the Patriots instead.
Please no. Never again.
Anything else you want to add, Matt?
I think that's about it for this week. I think it's going to be a bunch of great games, realistically. I mean, there's no questioning that. Only thing is just like, God, if Andy Reid beats us in the playoffs, it might be like suicide worthy. I might be on suicide watch for like weeks. Like, it's like Andy Reid, man. Dude, that guy looks like the Kool-Aid guy with like a shitty mustache. Like, are you kidding me? He's just like the known choker. The known choker. If they beat us, it'll be miserable. It'll be worse than anything ever. Yeah, maybe not ever, but pretty bad.
I just want to give a shout out to my boy Lamar Miller. I'm going to tag you in this tweet. Just you and Olivier Vernon, just come on by. Honestly, you want to win a trophy, you want to win a rushing title, come on by. We could really use you. Shit, I've been tweeting at Lamar Miller every day. I know he sees him. He'll throw me a little shout out when he signs, but that's really what I got. Looking forward to the draft. So Dez 2.0, Laquan Treadwell. That's my pick right now.
Sounds pretty.
Cleveland, I think. Dude, by the way, I didn't talk about this at all. I think Cleveland is going to be good. Like, I think something's going to happen. I think Hugh Jackson. It's easy to buy in the hype on the first day and all that. If they get Goff, if they take Goff, and then they Gordon stays healthy or stays on the field. Benjamin Barnage with a quarterback, do that. And Goff's not a great weather guy, but maybe even you take Carson Wentz or you take another guy. If there's somebody who could work out, like not a Brandon Weeden, he wasn't a sure thing, and Johnny Manziel wasn't a sure thing. People weren't as convinced. I think if they get a stud quarterback this year and that with that number 2 pick, there's a real good chance.
Well, I'm buying in on Goff. I'm just not buying in on long-term success in Cleveland. I think Goff is that type of guy that could lead to maybe eventually I don't know.
Yeah.
What success are you saying? How successful can they possibly be? Sure, they have the weapons offensively. Like you said, can they stay on the field? Can they keep Barnage on their team? Will they have the same type of protection once Joe Thomas gets older? I mean,
yeah, I'm throwing a bold prediction here. The San Francisco 49ers are going to trade their first-round pick, their second-round pick, and Colin Kaepernick to the Cleveland Browns before the draft. And the San Francisco 49ers will draft Goff at that 2 spot. That's my bold prediction for the day.
The Browns will draft Vontae Mack. End of story.
Vontae Mack, no matter what. Thanks for listening, guys, if you guys made it to the end. If you have any disagreements, anything you want to talk about, maybe we can do a little podcast on Friday or something like that. Thanks for listening. Peace out. Go Cards.
Go Pats.